Now Coaching, the relentless pursuit of excellence. Are you looking to increase your fitness level, get stronger, or reach a new goal? There are many people who share that same desire, but often life or injuries get in the way, and their progress slows or even stops. Professional coaching brings a unique element to staying focused, developing the right fitness and nutrition plan, and having a certified coach to help you stay on target and reach your goals. Zendurance Now helps you reach your goals through customized training plans, one-on-one consultation, and constant motivation. Whether you're a local or remote, we've got this. Visit www.zendurancenow.com and learn how we can help you.
G-Fit is a group-based, high-intensity circuit training led by NASM certified trainers in a pressure-free, friendly, and comfortable environment located in Tampa, Florida. Classes Monday and Wednesday, 5:45 to 6:30 p.m., and Saturday at 10 a.m. Personal training available upon request. Fees are found at www.tpamartialarts.com.
The following program is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long-course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show.
Hi folks, this is Andy. I produce the podcast, and I just wanted to give a little bit of a heads up about the upcoming episode. We did not label it explicit because I don't really feel that it is explicit, but it definitely does get into some adult content, meaning just things that if I had my kids in the car, I probably wouldn't play this whole podcast for them. We get into some really frank discussion. I think it's worthwhile. There might be a couple salty words that I wouldn't necessarily use in my professional life on a Sunday, but nothing gratuitous or graphic or nasty for any reason, but I just want to warn folks who might consider this a usually G-rated podcast. Maybe my standards are super tight these days, but I would consider this, again, a warning for little ears for some of the real serious stuff we get into. That said, it's a very, very fun podcast with an amazingly fun guest, so I encourage you to definitely check this out, but just be forewarned if you're thinking about the G rating. Welcome once again to the Triathlon Podcast for the Back of the Pack. This is one of your hosts for the evening, Andrew from doughboytoironman.com. With me as always.
This is John from fatslowtriathlete.com.
And joining us tonight, you folks are not going to believe the get we have in our sixth podcast episode. We're brand spanking new at this. We have a podcasting legend. Would that be all right to say, John? We didn't say her name yet, but I think that laugh, people are already going to know.
Yeah. Best voice in podcast radio. The
best voice in podcast radio, the lovely Anna Vocino.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Both our voices just went low down an octave. Did you notice that?
Hello. Hi, everybody.
How you doing?
Hey. How you
the best voice in podcast radio.
So John and I decided that we reference the Angry Strainer podcast on this show a lot, and we met through that community, and we mentioned things going on the board, and that got us in trouble.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, but with a lot of crossover stuff. Vinny Tortorich is on every other podcast in existence, and I love listening to his guest appearances. He's a podcast whore, Anna, wouldn't you say?
He puts out.
But he actually doesn't get paid, you know, so it's,
Well, that just means, anyway.
Well, you guys are paying me for this, right?
Yeah, you'll get the check next week.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Do you take imaginary Bitcoin?
I love Bitcoin. It's very high value.
Well, I have some fake Bitcoin, so that's what we're paying.
It's not even real Bitcoin.
Not even real Bitcoin. We decided let's buck the trends and let's see if we can get the first, as I'm gonna guess, first guest podcast with just Anna, because I know you and Vinny filled in for like Jimmy Moore.
Right.
But
yes.
have you been representing this show in podcasts?
I have not been representing this show on my lonesome. I have done many podcasts because I was on television, but that was also a few years ago. And I mostly do voiceover now. Although, plug, I have a FedEx commercial on the air right now. So that's my big exciting on camera.
I had to look that up today when I heard that you mentioned it on the podcast. Peter Flagg, I guess, sent it to you. So I immediately run to the iPad to see this.
Yay.
I have to say the only thing that commercial needs is more Anna.
Well, there is a 30-second version. They haven't released it yet that has much more Anna. It has many more lines, things, funny words, phrases. So that's the 15-second one. But I did ADR last week on the 30-second one. So I'm sure they wouldn't pay me to do ADR if they weren't going to run it. So
anything would benefit from more Anna.
That's absolutely.
I think that's just
I'm going to use that as a testimonial all over my website. Thank you.
There you go.
It's kind of like bacon,
Bacon,
more bacon for Anna.
Anna with bacon.
Anna with bacon. I think I'd explode then.
Well, actually, yeah. But before we forget, plug your blog because you write about bacon sometimes.
I do write about bacon sometimes. I have a blog at glutenfreeanna.blogspot.com. Yes, I know I need to have it forwarded to annavocino.com, but I haven't yet because I'm lazy. glutenfreeanna.blogspot.com because 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with celiac disease. And that was long before a lot of people were talking about celiac and going gluten-free, before it became a fad. My mom was diagnosed, and then I was diagnosed with it. And I'm half Southern. I'm half, white trash and half Italian, which is, just Italian trash. I'm just all trash, but half Italian and half Southern.
I always say I'm 1/4 redneck on my mother's side.
Right.
Yes, exactly. That's
half hillbilly.
That's a whole other thing we have. It's a whole other thing we have in common now, Anna, because we found out that both our Italian sides came from Bari.
I know, that's crazy.
Which is really odd, but
it is really odd. My family's from 2 hours north of Bari in a little town called San Nicandro. Oh. And I had to figure out how I was going to eat Italian food and Southern food.
My mom had it figured out.
Grain-free,
all of it,
yeah.
Well, all of it has gluten in it.
Yeah.
Every single bit has gluten in it. And I wish I had known about it before I was pregnant with my daughter. I didn't find out till she was 2 years old. I think it would have made my pregnancy a lot easier. Yeah. I had a really hard time and then just was like, I'm not doing that again. So I have one lovely daughter. Who knows? Maybe I would have had more. Then I discovered Vinny's podcast, in early 2012. And he talked about no sugar, no grain. So that's when I started doing no grain. So my recipes earlier on the blog are very much, if you want to make a lasagna, I'll tell you how to make a gluten-free lasagna, a lime tart, donuts. I'll tell you how to make all that stuff gluten-free because I was looking for that kind of comfort. But then what happened was when I went gluten-free, I went from a size 0 to a size 6, like super fast. And I didn't know what was going on. Because I was always so skinny, I guess I was never digesting anything. And I was severely anemic. I had osteopenia, which I've just now found. I thought my osteopenia would have gotten better, but they say you don't really rebuild that much bone density because I guess the combination, I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. I would like to find out more about the whole DEXA scan thing and osteopenia and osteoporosis. Anyway, so when I put on weight. And then I kept putting on weight because I stopped working on camera and then I could eat again. And let me tell you what, it was nice not to work on camera and actually eat food. But then I was like, well, this is not okay either because if I want to go back to working on camera, which I now finally am, I don't want to feel like I'm not camera ready. So that's what I think you kind of told me what we're going to talk about today about body image. So I'm really excited to talk about this because and I'm a dancer. I talked with your daughter about that before we went on the air. So there's a whole host of food issues, body image issues, things that are having to be repaired now that I'm sugar-free and grain-free. But now almost all the recipes are sugar-free and grain-free on the blog. NSNG, as we call it in Vinny's world. And, Reese, I posted 3 or 4 Thanksgiving recipes that are quite good, but then I am going to post a traditional candied yams recipe on Monday. So just to, keep it real.
I was looking at that pumpkin pie one today, actually.
It's so good.
I have to get my pumpkin pie in somehow.
I saw that food porn come across my screen there.
Yeah. I ate it for breakfast one day, so oh well.
Oh well.
Cat's out of the bag.
Well, Anna, I got a question. When you found that you went gluten free and gained weight, were you also like just celebrating? Look, I found a way to eat that's not going to make me sick, so I'm going to eat all these gluten free treats. And go extreme with it. Like we got somebody in our community on the Facebook board that said, "Look, I went paleo and I started gaining weight."
Yes, I saw that post.
And everybody really picked apart and analyzed. Well, a lot of what you were told isn't necessarily paleo as such, and the whole paleo community is having to kind of readjust its sights because people say, well, look, if you eliminate this, well, calories don't matter, and I mean, Vinny says that too. It's true to a degree until you realize, oh, if I'm just trying to shift my obsessive behavior into a different direction, just eliminating one other thing, you can't drink 12 cups of butter a day. That would be low carb.
You can't?
No.
What?
Well, it can be
John
done.
and I share cups of butter recipes.
It's funny because I've been listening. I spent about 2 hours in the car today listening to Dave Asprey, who I think you got to get Vinny and him talking because
I would love to hear them talk
because I think they agree more than they disagree. They're on the same side of the page, but just Dave is all about biohacking. And I mean, you listen to one of his podcasts. I was listening mostly to him on the Jimmy Moore's low carb cruise lecture that's from way back in May. Then I listened to his own thing, and I'm like, after every half hour, it's worse than listening to Ben Greenfield because I come up with about a $300 shopping list every hour.
Oh, I know. I was sitting there while Ben Greenfield was on our show, just putting more and more crap in my Amazon cart, which is now sitting on my counter, and I need to deal with it. Turmeric and curcumin was the thing I'm most excited about because he said it was good for memory loss. So I was like, sweet, bring it on. But that happens with the biohacker guys because they do all that research, and you're like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I want that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when I tend to turn it off because I just can't.
You just can't. It's too much.
I just can't.
Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it. I'm sitting here as somebody who's always cared. I love food. I'm a total foodie, I guess that would be the phrase. I'm not like a snooty foodie, but I like really good food and I love fresh food. And it made a difference when I moved to California. The amount of fresh, local, organic produce that we have access to year round is really quite brilliant. And so everything I make always has fresh stuff in it. But what I didn't realize is then when I wanted, and I would always bake everything from scratch. I hate gluten-free, prepackaged cakes and cookies, and they just don't taste good. They really don't. And I like to make, but if I'm going to make something, I'm like every other person. If I make a batch of cookies and I'm the one at home all day with the cookies, I'm going to eat all the cookies.
Yeah.
So
they're like this generation Snackwells.
Oh my God, Snackwells, the devil.
They were devil food.
Yeah.
Devil Snackwells.
Pretty much everything we reference on the show, John, can be taken back to a classic Seinfeld episode, and there was a whole there was a half an episode with the Snackwells.
That's right.
With the chatty rabbi, who
That's right.
could not keep a secret.
That's right. Oh my God.
I had a special laugh at that, considering all the secrets I have for my my profession. So
yeah.
Well, shall we get it? I'll tell you what. But what we usually do here, Anna, just to completely waste time, is I play a clip.
Oh, I'm real good at wasting time.
Yeah. The iTunes reviews have agreed, right?
Yep. I'll interrupt. I'll waste your time. Go for it.
And we're begging for more.
Yep. Well, I'm not as popular as I think I am.
That's right. Little inside joke for some of you Angry Strainer fans. I play an 80s movie clip for John, see if he can recognize it.
Oh, dude, bring it on.
Well, now, what I came up with for tonight, though, because I was scrambling. I was on my way home tonight. I got in here 5 minutes before we're going to record. I was literally in the middle of Amish country. Making a home visit. I came home with a couple pounds of deer bologna that came from Colorado. The guy shot a mule deer.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And I mean, these. If I want fresh deer meat, I don't have to hunt deer. Everybody else around me hunts deer, and it'll give me whatever I want.
Yeah. What does deer bologna taste like?
The thing is, it's actually really lean.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a high fat, low carb, you don't want to. You want to like maybe pour some olive oil on it or something. But
yeah.
Deer bologna it's a little gamey. But it's basically how they spice it, and it's a lot like a typical beef ring bologna, but not nearly as fatty.
Mm.
But
I've had venison jerky. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm the only guy in this county that doesn't hunt. But I thought about it this year, and it's not going to bother. I have so much meat coming. I've got a quarter pig coming, a quarter steer coming. I got a half a lamb in the freezer right now. It's crazy. So,
oh my God. Do you have like extra freezers outside?
It's funny you ask. I just bought another one yesterday.
How many do you have?
Well, we have a small one that we worked with for years that got like just enough for a quarter beef. But now friends of ours moved into a bigger house and bought new appliances, so they sold me their upright for $50. It looks like a full-size fridge.
Wow.
And it's really nice condition, and I packed it into my wife's Jeep Liberty and got it home, and tomorrow we're going to stuff it full of pork, so that's going to be fun.
Now, is all this stuff pre-butchered? So is it, or do you have to thaw out like a big piece and then butcher it and then...
Nope. It's all, we pay for the processing too, so...
That's amazing.
Yeah, and
I need to do that.
It's a nice benefit of living in an area where you have farms like that. The pig came from a farm where the lamb came from, which is a grass-fed. I'll have a little plug for them. It's if you're in Central Pennsylvania, check out Owen's Farm. It's south of Sunbury. They sell out though. I mean, they're really popular. They're totally pastured. My daughter spent a week there this summer doing sheep camp. Which all my friends are like, what the heck is sheep camp? I'm like, well, it's not another soccer camp. It's something unique. She went to learn about woolcraft and how to tend to sheep. Her picture was in a local paper when they came and took.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. And she has a spinning wheel upstairs right now. We borrowed from an older lady from church who has like 12 of them. So she's going to spin her own wool. You know, I mean, just so it's like Little House.
Not only that, then she can also act out Sleeping Beauty, and she can be Maleficent, which is the fun role.
Exactly.
That's right.
My wife would be like, no, I'm going to be Maleficent. I love that part.
No, I'm Maleficent.
So the punchline of that story is she said, Daddy, you can never feed me lamb. Because I just spent time with the sheep. Well, I made some lamb, and then she's like, that smells pretty good. So I'll try a little bite. So now she's been eating lamb. So
yeah,
she's the sweetest little carnivore I've ever known.
Oh,
because some kids are like, like my son. He's an ethical vegan by convenience. He says, Daddy, I don't think we should eat God's creatures. Well, I can't argue with that, but he's a vegetarian and won't eat vegetables.
That's the problem I had when my daughter went vegetarian.
He's a
pastatarian. I said, if you're going to eat pasta and that's it, then it's not happening. Eat this salmon now.
Yeah. Last night I put some broiled Boston bluefish in coconut oil, I think, and butter in front of them, and some roasted purple cauliflower. And I was like, all right, I know this is the weirdest thing possible, but you're going to eat something.
Sounds good.
That sounds amazing.
I had the leftovers.
But then again, I'm not 7.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's set the mood for our topic of the evening. I've got 2 clips. They won't be hard, okay? And they're not 80s. So I'm
You said that yesterday. And
they're not 80s.
Actually, yesterday, yeah.
What was the clip yesterday that you missed?
All right, you know what? Let's play it for Anna since she didn't hear the show yet. I'll replay it. I've got it right here.
Okay.
All right, Anna, here it is.
Okay.
She says she can hear that I'm eating too much sugar on the phone. She says my larynx is fat.
I don't know what that is. Weird science. I don't know.
No? All right. I'll do what I did for John. I gave him the another quote from it. There's a fine line between stupid and clever.
Oh, Spinal Tap.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. He got it when I finally said it goes to 11.
I don't remember the larynx part.
Yeah. See, I didn't remember it either.
Oh, it's Michael, what's his name, who says that line?
Yeah.
That's
he's talking to his girlfriend on the phone.
Yeah, he's dating the Yoko of the group. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. And
that's right.
Yeah. For some reason, I only remember lines about fatness. That's how I found out. Our first one was from the Money Pit, about the fat guy going to run a 1K. And so, like, those are the things I obscurely remember.
I got to run a 1K. Yeah. That sounds like my kind of K, by the way, a 1K.
All right. So, well,
no, I run 5Ks. I've run several 5Ks.
Yes, you have.
But that's I was listening to you guys because I wanted to make sure I had heard enough of the podcast so I could roll. And you guys really inspired me, and I wanted to go for a run today and didn't have time, but you were inspiring me. So I think that's what we're all trying to do, is talk about this stuff, but also inspire our listeners to go out and do stuff. So I was totally inspired by listening.
Well, thank you for saying so.
Exactly right. Appreciate that.
I got two clips. The first one is from a movie so new it's actually only going to be released on DVD and Blu-ray in December. So
then I probably haven't seen it.
If my kid, I'll give you a hint. My kids know it. So.
Oh.
Okay.
I wish Princess Agnes a very happy birthday.
How come you're so fat?
Because
the minions. What are they called? Despicable Me Too.
Yes, it was, but you stepped on the best part.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because he says, because I live in a house made of candy, and sometimes I eat instead of facing my problems.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was supposed to guess as soon as possible.
Oh, no. That's fine.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And it's funny because yesterday's show, I mentioned my 5K run where I dressed like Gru and all my girls were the minions at the Girls in the Run, and it's on my blog right now. So
that's awesome.
That was a lot of fun. But when I saw that in the theater with my kids, I about fell out. Oh, he so gets it. All right. Now, you're going to recognize this.
I'm not going to interrupt the next one.
All right. So I'll play this one, and then you tell me where it's from. I think this one's going to be kind of obvious. I will say it's not 80s, early to mid-90s, maybe mid to late 90s. 90s. We'll just say 90s.
90s. Okay.
All right. So when you and I were out of college, I'm pretty sure that's when this was.
Yes.
All right. Where did it go here? I've got this. Okay, here we are.
You didn't answer my question. Are you happy?
Of course I'm no happy. Look at me, I'm a big fat slob.
I love this movie.
Titties than you do. I've got more chins than a Chinese phone book. I've not seen my willy in 2 years, which is long enough to declare legally dead.
That's fat bastard.
Eating. I eat because I'm unhappy.
Aww.
I'm unhappy because I eat.
I'm unhappy because I eat.
And then he goes,
Powers.
Yes, Austin Powers. Fat bastard. And then
that's actually where I got my test from. I think I talked about it in the blog at the very beginning. It says that's the test when you know you've lost weight, is when you can see your own willy.
That's right.
You know, when you can see it again, it's like, welcoming back an old friend. Hey, where have you been for 10 years?
It's funny you mentioned that was a joke from Dennis Leary on the No Cure for Cancer album when he was talking about we got some fat people in this country go to Vegas. And he said, how do you keep eating when you wake up in the morning and don't see your penis?
Exactly.
He's like, that's why I stop eating. We have a relationship. We got to talk every day.
For real. But it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well,
you think that would motivate?
Well, apparently, yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the setup. We asked Anna, let's have a conversation about the difference between body image for men and women. And you already mentioned being, in the show business there in the Hollywood.
In the Hollywood show business.
In the Hollywood show business. And I'm going to say right off the bat, I am under no illusion that men have it as hard as women when it comes to expectations of leanness and body and public image. I'm under no illusions. I've said for years, it is much more culturally acceptable for a guy to be fat. In fact, a guy can be really fat and people will still deny you're heavy and just say, you're a big guy. A woman with the same BMI, when she says, I need to lose some weight, people won't say, oh, no, you don't. They'll say, oh, yeah, no, it's tough, dear. But with a guy, they'll say, oh, no, you're a big dude.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's only been recently that they'll even say, get me a size 10. Like, because they usually want size 2s.
Right.
And a size 10, to be quite honest, ain't even that big. I think that with men and women, gosh, gosh, it's so funny. Yeah, because it used to be you were either an ingenue or a leading lady, or you were a character actress. And usually when you're older, you become a character actress. Now there are many more younger character actresses. And there was a leading man. And I still think for leading men and the younger leading men, there is the pressure to be lean because, we have all the actors, you hear about them leaning up for their action movie roles and stuff. But there are a lot of dudes filling out all of the other roles, and they just look like normal dudes. But every woman who's in the action movie either is the girlfriend or maybe she's some smarty pants who knows how to do the computer programming, and they're all tiny.
Yeah. Well, and
you'll rarely see a big woman or a normal. I'm not even big women. Just like you'll rarely see somebody who isn't completely teeny tiny
or
doing a role.
Or if they are a role, they're always played for comedy. The large person, male or female, has to be comic, or it's just going to make you sad. So right now you've got like Melinda McCarthy, who's just amazingly talented.
Right, Melissa. Melissa McCarthy.
And I loved her in her films. I can't watch Mike and Molly because I'm sure they're both very funny, but I'm at that point in my life where I can't watch a show where every joke, every punchline is because they're fat.
Here's what's fun. I was actually thinking about Melissa today in the car, and I say Melissa, I don't know her, but one of my bestest friends we've been doing comedy with for 20 years, I've been doing comedy with for 20 years, is a very dear friend of hers. And they have a similar body type. And she actually had called Melissa to get her advice on a pilot that she was offered, and she wound up ultimately passing on it because she felt like it was a fat joke. And I was thinking about Melissa because her film career, even though she's big and she uses her weight to comic effect exquisitely, you don't necessarily, there are not a lot of fat jokes going on in the movies. It's not like, you're fat in the Heat. It's not about that.
I just saw the Heat, and what I loved,
I love that movie.
It was a
great
hilarious side joke, a recurring joke, was how all these men kept coming up to her. Like,
she was totally sexual.
Yeah, they were obsessed. Like they couldn't get her out of their minds after one night. And Sandra Bullock's character was just like, what's going on here?
It was great. I love that aspect of her character. That was such a fun thing that they did. Yeah.
And that speaks the idea that confidence is sexy no matter what. Like
no matter what.
I remember years ago, what's his name? The guy who played Tony Soprano died recently. James Gandolfini was on the Inside the Actors Studio. And he said to him, "So is Tony Soprano a sex, what do you want to say, a sexual figure, or whatever?" And Gandolfini said, "Yeah, he likes to screw." Like, so that confidence is like, powerful men that are schlubby and then all the CBS comedies for years were just that same formula. Fat, schlubby guy, King of Queens model with a, tiny, attractive wife. And everybody's like, come on, Jim Belushi.
There was a Will and Grace episode where they were joking about the schlubby husband, skinny wife. Oh, another show with a schlubby husband and a skinny wife.
Nice.
But that's been the dynamic set up since the Honeymooners.
Yep.
John, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah.
Did you cut me off?
I did.
I was going to say. So. Well, I was going to say about even McCartney in the Bridesmaid is the confidence that she had. She was a very plain woman in that movie, but she didn't see herself that way. She saw herself as very sexual and very she had no problem going up to the guy on the airplane and just throwing herself at him.
Yeah.
Who is her husband in real life, by the way?
I don't know.
That's Ben Falcone, her husband in real life.
Oh,
so that always cracks me up. Yeah, when they had that sex scene at the end where she has the sandwich.
I love that stuff.
You find out the reveal at the end where she has security clearance for all the nuclear bombs, and like you're just like, wow, she's awesome,
Yeah. So
she opened up a bit. I mean, there are a lot more roles now being written. Hopefully, Melissa McCarthy will be able to do them. But guess what? She can't do every role. So now there are a lot more roles opening up for women who are funny, who aren't fitting the norm. I mean, that was the whole thing with Sarah Silverman, who I think is brilliant. But I understand a lot of people don't like her because of her potty mouth. But I think that she's broken a lot of barriers about sexism and racism. But it was always couched in like, well, she's so pretty for a comic. Like you still have to have that quality of being someone I'd want to have sex with in order for you to be validly appearing on my screen.
Yeah.
Well, Silverman's one of those women that just I cry when I watch her. Her show that when it was on for a while is one of those shows that I would just die laughing watching. I love it. And that kind of humor.
Her memoir, The Bedwetter, is probably one of the most inspirational books I've ever read for as far as sticking with this business, because she's one that's had like 15 different amazing breaks, and she still pounds the pavement and has to prove her worth at every step of the way.
I got to tell you, the most offensive and funny joke I ever encountered was one that she told, and I read it in Rolling Stone magazine. And no, I'm not telling it on this podcast.
Yeah, no.
We have a non-explicit label, so we're already pushing the edge, I think.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I think too, I mean, it's almost not fair that men can't talk about it. I'm glad you guys are talking about it. I'm glad you guys have blogs about it. I think it's important for people to feel like they identify, because no one wants to feel unattractive or unworthy because they've gained weight, and it's hard to get a leg up and go through the process of losing weight if you just feel so alone and so ashamed. I mean, that's just, sorry to bring it down, but that's true.
Well,
you know
but no,
what I mean?
that's kind of what we wanted to talk about tonight, is that is a real thing for men and women. So I wouldn't say this is where my to use a Stuart Smalley kind of phrase, this is where my shame spiral starts. Okay, is I try to be a sensitive guy, and I consider myself a feminist, and I try to be sensitive to this stuff. And so then when I start feeling bad about stuff, that I suddenly say, well, you don't have a right to feel bad about that because you're a middle-aged white guy. You have all the privilege in the world. Louis C.K. rings in my head on his great routine about if you're white and you don't admit it's great, then you're a jerk because you don't admit your privilege. Yeah, so I'm a huge. I probably said this already, but I've already cribbed his stuff for sermons twice, and I figure anybody who knows where I got it can't be offended that I got it from there. You know what I mean?
Exactly right.
I saw him. I actually saw at Largo, which is this awesome venue in town that I think only seats maybe like 200-300 people, and it was Sarah Silverman and friends. She does a show about once a month there and brings people. And Louis C.K. came and did the headlining set, and he doesn't. I mean, he wrote it on the plane ride over. Like, he's such an amazing observer of human nature and then a storyteller of it. He's phenomenal, and it's constantly, I feel like he's constantly shining the light on middle-aged white people and all of our he's right. He's right. There's nothing to complain about, and I shouldn't be complaining at all. My life is great, but still, when you're down a shame spiral and having, eating food that you shouldn't be eating and then beating yourself up over it, it's a real thing. And I think that we've been taught to not deal with our emotions, or I don't even know where it comes from, but it's just bad habits, bad patterns of thought where you just think that if I stuff this void with this bag of pirate's booty, I always say that. And then my friends always go, really? That's what you eat? Pirate's booty? I'm like, yeah. Really? Pirate's booty? How about 10 bags of Oreos? I'm like, well, everyone has their demons.
Exactly. But
still,
it's for me, and I don't know if I want to get John talking here in a second, because I think he and I have very different experiences of masculinity and what it means to be a man that torments me still, because he played football and he's still got some arms on him, and I always joke about my daughter and I run together because we have the same arms, and she's a 10-year-old girl. I've never been a tough guy. Because I'm big and I can be very loud and I can give you 1 million words a minute, I can be verbally intimidating. So I've probably gotten out of situations that might have been a fight when I was younger. But if I really had to fight somebody, I don't have it. But I look intimidating because I'm a big dude. And I try to be sensitive to that when I'm around little kids, because I come down and talk at their level, and then they know I'm a teddy bear. But there's this sense that a guy has to, even if a guy's going to be allowed to be sensitive in our culture, he's got to be able to back that up with, well, if he really had to throw down, he could be Schwarzenegger. And so, I want, but I don't live in a culture like that. I live in a culture of men who hunt. Where I live, it's starting to change. And as the guys I know my age and younger, they're not masking that stuff that their dads and their grandfathers probably did for generations. But I'm still torn up in like, I should be tougher because I'm a man. So emotional eating, what nonsense is that? Why is that on my radar? I remember going to my first OA meeting, Over Years Anonymous, and I was one of 2 men in the room out of like 20. And I was like, let's not talk. Okay. Why are we going to talk about emotional? Okay, this is a women's group, and that's fine if you're a woman, but I'm not a woman. And I couldn't admit my feminine side. And there's a misogyny in that, as if being feminine is lesser than being masculine.
Yeah, all that
stuff, it just swirls in my head. I overanalyze, and then I'm like,
overeating is being conflated as a female problem. But really, everybody does all kinds of things to fill the void, whether it's spend too much money, buy too many electronics, do too many drugs, drink too much, smoke too many cigarettes, eat too much food. People are constantly filling the void. And I guess maybe gambling might be more masculine and maybe eating is more feminine, but really it's not. Everybody is doing something to try to fill a void. And really only the mature, enlightened person all the time is like, no, I can just be happy because I know how to do it. We don't know how to be happy. We're learning how to be happy. And I find the older I get, the easier it becomes to just be happy and not try to medicate with a cocktail or a food or going out. I got to treat myself. I had a hard day today. I got to go do this. Or even the people overdoing it with training, they go in the opposite direction with training, which is a healthy thing.
Yeah. I got 2 thoughts on that I want to get John in here. The two thoughts I have on that, Vanna, because you're so dead on. For me, it's been interesting watching Facebook as a barometer of society, because I try not to. I pretty much hang out in our group that's over 2,000 now, and I don't do much on my regular wall unless I'm asking for like tool advice. Because if I just look at the feed from my general set of friends, I've come to the conclusion that, okay, I might have sugar issues, but half the people I know are either alcoholics, shopaholics,
right? For sure.
Care way too much about a particular team, are way too obsessed with their political point of view, and are addicted to something. They're addicted to something, and it's just like, oh, you're a buzzkill. The other side of that, though, for me was when I needed to tell people that in my life that I was going to a 12-step meeting, just because I felt like they needed to know that. And it was Over Years Anonymous. And I told them, I said, this might sound stupid to you, but I know you all feel like, oh, at least it's just food, right? Like, I know they probably had the reaction of, oh, okay, we're glad it's not, heroin or something. And part of me is like, yeah, I'm glad too, because you don't tend to wreck your car driving fat. But I mean, there have been incidents where you're reaching for food and don't look at the road. But I said, this might not make sense to anybody who's outside the addiction, but I feel more ashamed in admitting that. I feel like it'd be cooler and more understandable if I was a drunk. Like, you could get your head around that. Like in a
well, it shuts people up real fast when you say I don't drink because I'm in AA. They go, oh, okay, and then they leave it alone and they won't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, like, but if you say, well, there's that. I wasn't even thinking of that. I'm just thinking of like if you had a quote a real problem, people would respect it more and understand you need help. If you were Don Draper drunk, that's like a real man's problem. But oh wait, you're addicted to sugar. Oh, dude, shut up, man up. Just be a guy. Just eat. Shut up about it. Do some extra workouts. Don't be a girl. And again, using femininity as a pejorative. That kind of attitude. But like you said, yeah. Then you got the whole other thing of, well, if you say, well, no, thank you, because I'm not having that. People lose their damn minds. But yeah, if it's, I'm not saying it's easy for a person to pass up alcohol, but people tend to react to you and say, oh, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize you were in the program. All right, yeah, I will keep the booze away from you. But, oh, my God, try to ask somebody to keep pies and cupcakes and cookies away from you, and they act like you are a fascist trying to burn down America. America. John, what do you say?
Well, I mean, going back to I guess where you started there was I think where that started was the whole Miami Dolphin issue. And I came out very much like I was on Vinny's side when, what he said about Jonathan Martin and Incognito. I was kind of, yep, that's right. He's absolutely right. And, obviously Andrew, was on the other side a little bit. And, but I come from it, from playing football, and I guess to go back, everything that I've done, playing football and playing in rock bands and things like that through my younger years was all related to the fact that I was really a skinny kid growing up, and I got picked on a lot. So I have a little bit in common with Vinny there.
So you were the 95-pound weakling in the Charles Atlas advertisements.
You haven't seen the picture? I've go back on the blog and look at the picture I posted of me when I was 13. You wouldn't even believe it's the same person.
Wow.
And, I was thin. So you start getting into these things because you start feeling like, I have to, and I grew up in an Italian family, and that weakness like that is not allowed. So, there's no coming home and complaining that you're getting picked on in school. The first thing my dad would say now, like you, Anna, my father was Southern from Georgia. Mm-hmm. So I had that two dynamics going on there. And so you come home and you tell your dad that, you're getting picked on at school. The first thing out of his mouth is, why are you telling me about this? Go punch the guy. Go take care of it.
Right.
So when I see now the whole thing with the dolphin thing, it wasn't as much. It wasn't as much as him saying he was being bullied, which I really don't think he was, but it was he left his team, and that's where I was coming from. I don't know if any really said that, but what bothered me about that as a Dolphin fan, you let your team down. If you have problems, that's one thing, but people are depending on you to be there Sunday. You can get somebody hurt by not being there. So that's where I was having a problem with it, and still do have a problem with it.
I feel like we've lost our ability for discourse and solving problems.
Yes.
Because I think that there could have been, and that's why, I like to hear out Vinny's side. I don't necessarily agree with it all the time, but I like to hear out his side. And to me, there's all these things are so multifaceted. And this is why those snooty French people in the late 18th century had their salons to talk about stuff. You know what I mean? You need to talk about stuff. And I feel like the leaving the team thing is very, there's something about, there's a happy medium between punch him in the face and quit the team. You know what I mean? Right. And I feel like we've lost, in a lot of ways, in our country, we've lost the happy medium, the ability to compromise.
I think it's because of our short attention span. Because it's like, which are you? Tell it to me in 140 characters or less, or pick a side. And politics is all that way. One of the best books ever written about culture was in the 1980s. Neil Postman wrote a book called "Amusing Ourselves to Death." And it was a call to action against a consumerist entertainment-based society. He's since deceased. I can't imagine him watching like Vine and Twitter. But I had to read that book for 2 different courses in college in 2 different departments. And one thing that always stuck with me from that book was he said, the age of the Lincoln-Douglas debates, people went home after 4 hours of debate, had dinner, and came back.
Yeah, they were that into it.
Yeah, can you imagine people listening to politics now for that long? It's just like, shut up, am I supposed to vote for that guy or that guy? Or is that guy on our side or whatever? And we're doing it to ourselves. But yeah, Anna, I think you're right. That the idea of a happy medium, we never want to find it because people are too afraid to give an inch because that shows weakness.
Right.
If you admit that the other side might have a shred of truth to it, you're like, oh, see, it's insane.
Yeah.
Well, I have a short fuse when it comes to any bully tactics, just because of where I came from. And I think in the last podcast, I don't know how Andrew took it because we haven't talked about it, but when we were brought up the Durian Rider thing, and he was talking about poking that guy in the stomach. So, dude, if you had done that to me, we would have had a serious issue. And
wait, who said about poking in the stomach?
He said it, I think, on Rich Roll's podcast that he was talking to somebody that was disagreeing with him, and he said the whole time I was talking to him, I was poking him in his belly.
That's
try that
guy to talk to for a number of reasons.
Exactly, and so it's anything like that. I do have an issue with, and even on the Facebook groups, if I pick up on somebody just being an ass, even within our group, I don't let that go, and I will jump in there, and which we saw.
Well, and I think that's something, John, you and I both share. regardless, I mean, part of my, like I said, I struggle with what's it mean to be masculine, what's it mean to be macho or whatever. But where my fuse is in the same way. I feel like I'm secure enough in who I am that you can pick on me and I'll be all right, or maybe I won't, but at least I can pretend. But you start messing with somebody that I feel like I got to jump to their aid. I mean, Vinny was like that with you, Anna, with Durian Riders. Like, hey, say what you want about me, but you go after my co-host who's given her time and her resources to make this happen. She doesn't have her name on the book. I'm the same way. I mean, the times in my life where I've gotten physical were in defense of other people. And sometimes, I mean, my problem is I get really easily self-righteous and I become a jerk because I've been given the excuse because I'm defending the weak and defenseless. And then it's like, okay, now you need to calm down. But that's been a growing thing for me.
I never become self-righteous.
Oh, never. I'm sure, John.
Yeah,
but like,
never.
Oh, well, Anna, we were talking earlier about you being a preacher's kid. My daughter was talking to you, and she's a preacher's kid. When I was in fourth grade, my sister was in kindergarten, and we were walking home together from elementary, and there was a kid in second grade who was bullying her, and he happened to be our preacher's kid in a small town, and he had his hand around her neck as like choking her, and I picked him up and I threw him. I just threw him, and then that was the end. I know. I was just like, I went all Hulkamaniac on him, and then what happened is I walk home. My father's a block and a half away from the school. My dad's working second shift, so he's home when we get there before my mom gets home. And we're both crying. And he's like, why are you crying? I was like, Sterling was picking on Jody, and I grabbed a hold of him, and I threw him. He's like, it's okay. You did the right thing. He said, why are you so upset? Well, he called me a word, and he's yelling it through the whole town. And his dad's like, what's the word? He's like, I can't say it. Can you spell it? I think so. F. Okay, I got it. Okay, I got it.
Stop.
So I've been, I will suddenly become Mr. Chivalrous Defender of the Righteous when somebody is being picked on. And I mean, I picked fights with guys in the football team when they were picking on my band geek fellow band geeks because I was who I was in high school. And I would challenge, I acted like such a cocky guy when I knew that they were going to back down so they wouldn't end up getting kicked off the Friday night game.
Yeah,
but I know that there's certainly some aggression and maleness in me that I don't often admit to, that I've got power that I don't acknowledge. And I always say, like, well, I'm just a big, dumb weakling. And people are like, no, dude, don't underestimate the fact that you can scare the crap out of some people. So, that aggression is there in me. I just always wanted to act like, oh, no, it's not there because I'm not a sports guy. I'm not that guy. And, I'm still clearly wrestling with that. And so when it comes to like eating and being overweight and wanting to be strong and wanting to be lean and look better, all that stuff gets mixed up. And then, like I said to Anna, the shame spiral starts when I feel like, well, shut up. You really shouldn't feel that way. And anytime, and I'm in a profession where we're always harder on ourselves. I go out as part of half my job is being with people one-on-one and letting them be okay with what they're feeling. And then I come home and I don't do that to myself. You wonder why clergy burnout is so high. We are one of the professions that's like that. That's like we're totally hard on ourselves, but if somebody else were telling us the same thing we're saying to in our own head, we would want to just hold them, forgive them, make them feel better, and go on their way with the grace. But we won't let ourselves do it. So there's where I am.
I agree.
Yeah. Well,
this is where we need a sound effect, like a boing when you make a good point.
I feel like I just made everything quiet there for a second.
Well, I've always thought I always found it funny that people have this certain image of me, I guess, from how I write and how I come across, and then they meet me in person. And I think I've mentioned it before. I had lunch with Kate Thompson, who's been on Vinny's show a couple of times, or at least once, right? And she, the first time she met me, she goes, I thought you were going to be such an ass. And I'm very different in person. You come across a certain way, and I can be very opinionaid, and probably why I do like the Angriest Trainer and things like that, because I connect with it. But in person,
well, that's okay to have an opinion.
Well, but I can be a little stubborn myself, but especially, when you have an opinion you feel is right,
right,
and nobody's listening to you.
Well, but you know what, John, I gotta throw this out there for you, because I've been thinking about you saying that recently, because two things came to mind. One guy I did meet, one of the few men I met in Overeaters Anonymous, said something that just blew my mind. And he and I are on opposite ends of the political spectrum, so I can imagine us throwing down. And he said, when I finally started getting into recovery, I realized it's not important that I have to have an opinion on everything. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And all the addicts in the room shook their heads. Yes, I get it. Because I started another blog I haven't written yet, but it's like on being a recovering hipster. Not that I ever wore skinny jeans, but to me...
One day,
yeah. Well, I don't want to.
I don't think I'm not riding
a fixie. I'm going to send you purple skinny jeans from California. Just say the word.
To me, what being a hipster is having to hate anything that is sincerely loved by somebody else. And so, I love to hate crappy music, and I love to make fun of people for liking really terrible music. I'm almost over it, but not entirely. I'm still struggling. Like I said, I'm recovering. But the idea
was that a shot at Kiss there?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we did.
So we might have to throw it down.
Ace Frehley is not a great guitar player, but I'm talking about the difference between rock and roll and like Milli Vanilli or something, or One Direction, which is fine if you're a 12-year-old girl, but if you're a 40-year-old man. Dude, no.
Creepy.
So I'm imposing my version of masculinity.
Even people of our age have seen those bands come and go. In my age, it was the Osmond Brothers.
Sure.
And that's how old I am.
But that idea that you have to have an opinion on something and always be right, like that's a struggle. And anybody who's known me is like, well, that's your life, Andy. You always have to be in every conversation and every argument and have an opinion on it. And I'm like, yeah, well, people who don't care about stuff bore me. So why don't you have an opinion? Then I get really mad. But
I've gotten better about that on especially Facebook lately. When I go to answer something, I think, do I really need to get into this? Because I know what is going to happen, And so I've started to pull back on that. Well, and even with the political stuff, even back during the last election, I got to the point that, if you're putting stupid stuff out there that is just ridiculous, you're going to be blocked. You're gone.
It just doesn't.
I'm not even going to listen to it anymore. Right.
No, it was hard to watch people's Facebook feeds during the last election.
It really
was hard.
was.
And like during the whole Chick-fil-A scandal that turned somehow from gay hating into it's just freedom of speech, and watching what people wrote on my friends' walls who are gay, I was just like, really? Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a manners thing or people just... Because of Facebook, you're ostensibly yourself. Like you're being identified as yourself saying these things.
Yeah.
Right.
So even that doesn't seem to matter. Like I can understand like on a YouTube comment where it's like, stupid a-hole. Like, you're anonymous, but.
Right. The other thing I want to throw out for John, and then tell us if this is a masculine thing or not. Again, I was listening to Dave Asprey. I mean, all our podcast is us referencing other podcasts. That's just what it is. It's like the meta podcast. We're just podcast junkies making our own podcast, talking about
That's great.
Podcasts.
I love it.
Well, yeah, because Anna, last night we discovered we had not listened to your Wednesday show, and we talked about Gabriel Iglesias too. In a show we recorded last night, it went up, and then I listened this morning, and I was like, oh man, we both listened to Corolla and had the same takeaway. But Dave Asprey was talking about the Bulletproof exec. He once was over 300 pounds, and when he started to lose weight and started feeling good, he got to that point where he started getting mad at other fat people. Mm-hmm. And I've been through that. And I think, John, you've expressed some stuff that I think can relate to that. It's something we go through where we're like, why don't you get it too? And the thing we got to do is remember, well, look, if take a picture of yourself at your heaviest and most slovenly or whatever, most not caring, don't you think there are people wanting to walk up to you and kick you in the butt and say, why don't you care, dude? So we all are at a different place in when it finally matters to us. But I've had that experience of having to let that go and be like, all right, people will come to it when they want to come to it the same way you came to it when you wanted to come to it. John, does that sound like anything you're familiar with?
No, not at all. Yeah, and I've talked about it and I blogged about it a lot, was how we become evangelists. At the beginning, we're almost like ex-smokers, or
Right.
born again Christians. We have to, at the beginning, we want to tell everybody. And and I do it. I still catch myself like looking at someone, I work in county government, and there's a lot of heavy people working in county government. And, I went through that little period at the beginning that you just want to go up and shake them all and say, look, knock it off. When you see the one woman, with a bag of, potato chips on her belly while she's working. And it's like, yeah. So, but I've gotten to the point now where it's like, and people have come up to me at work now and are starting to ask me about it because they see I have lost weight. What did you do? And then I'll tell them. But, or I'll point them at the blog, or I'll point them at podcasts and, go listen to this and see if you like this. And, I've given Vinny's book to quite a few people, and just read it. And if you have any questions, let me know.
I think that's the best way to do it, because I gotta say, when did it become everybody else's business what anybody's doing? And you know what I mean? And people do get like that, and you get people do get like that. You're absolutely right, and the whole thing of like when people are ready, they come to it. So why would you want to make somebody feel bad if they're not ready? If they feel good eating that sugar right now, it's almost like you have to go, okay, great. Just like the alcoholic feels good getting wasted until they're ready to change it. And you go, okay, great. I won't have a relationship with you. But you know what I mean? With the alcoholic, it's a little easier when it's a food issue. But you know what I mean?
When it's food, you can be like, you will turn people off if you act like everything they have is poison. And
yeah, you can't do that. You're an asshole. I'm sorry. Do you have to cut that out?
Nah, that's fine.
You're an A.
You're an A.
Yeah, an A is not for Andrew.
No, but what you can, what I've found is effective is because people that have seen the changes in me, they know that they're like, oh, you don't eat that anymore. I'm like, oh no, that's some good stuff you got there, right? But for me, just one is going to lead to too many. So no, thank you. I don't be like, I don't act like, you really ought to be giving that up entirely, just like I have. I mean, because
I think that's handling it well. Like, God, I wish I could eat that, but I just notice when I eat that way, I tend to put on weight and feel sick, and I just don't. It doesn't agree with me, and that generally shuts people up.
Yeah. And I feel like with John, when people ask you, what are you doing? Well, now I'll tell you. I'll tell you what I'm doing. And for me, we talked about this before where I'm careful. I won't even say something on somebody's Facebook wall when I feel like they've opened the door, but they don't feel like they've opened the door.
Yeah.
It becomes a who asked you, and I'm like, well, you wanted to talk about food, you wanted to talk about giving your 2-year-old juice, you wanted to talk about. So I feel like you opened it up.
Again, the things I wish I knew when I had a 2-year-old, because all my daughter drank was apple juice.
Yeah. Mine too. My son too.
My kids are not sugar-free, grain-free, as Anna talked to him before the show here. A lot of sandwiches for my son because he won't eat meat and he won't eat vegetables. And they're skinny kids, and it's not that that's what it's about. It's about their health. But I do know that they get treats, they go for ice cream, but they're not saturated in it. And I watch other kids their age freak out all the time. And it's not just the sugar, it's in their expectations of how they're raised. But my kids are well-mannered and polite, and anymore, that's turned them into freaks because the norm is being jackwagons all the time.
Right.
So
well, I'm going to bring it back to Louis C.K. saying, remember the cell phone thing that he said on was it on Conan, I guess? And he said, fine, because he said, I won't let my kids have cell phones, and they're all mad. But it's like, fine, be the one person who's the example of how to connect with people. Like, we're so scared of connecting with people. We have to have our faces in our phones all the time. We avoid, we're on the internet all the time. We're so afraid of actually physically being around a person and connecting with them, which I thought was really great. So be that one kid in school who actually just talks to your friends.
Yeah, and my kids are at that stage where
funny.
they mostly talk to adults, and they use words that and phrases that adults use. So people
like, even caught that,
like jackwagon.
Jackwagon.
Yeah,
which is one of my favorite phrases, by the way.
I love that one. It's aggressive enough, but it'll make it through a filter.
Well, you guys in Pennsylvania have all sorts of versions of that. I'm not going to say them, but I learned several words from marrying a man from Pittsburgh.
Use guys. Use.
Though they say yins. Use guys is Philly.
Use guys is Philly.
They say yins in Pittsburgh.
Oh, and yins.
And
makes my
jag.
skin crawl.
You jag.
You jag. That sounds like Boston.
Yeah, it's the weirdest act. It's like Chicago meets New York.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh. It's like they're stuck there in the little Allegheny.
Geographically,
crater.
That's about right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the part between. I'm in the part in the middle where you can best understand where I live by James Carville in the 1992 presidential election when he was talking about Clinton going into PA. He's like, well, now see, here's what you got. You got Pennsylvania's got Philadelphia. You got Pittsburgh, and then you got Alabama in between.
That's
Are you close to Harrisburg?
I'm 45 minutes speeding to Harrisburg, so I'm right north of Harrisburg, a little under an hour, passing the Amish buggies.
Nice.
So yeah.
Well, my roommate from boarding school was from Lancaster, and there were a lot of buggies whenever we'd go visit her.
It's funny.
That's right, a little bit.
And that's where the tourists go to look at Amish people. But I live where Amish people live, and they're that's just
where they actually live.
Your neighbor, So, well,
we don't get a lot of that down here.
I know you're on a time thing. You only have a couple minutes.
I'm actually okay. My daughter did not wind up going to her horse lesson, so I'm cool for a little while. Okay. But I wanted to address. I don't want to give Durian Ryder any airtime, but I want to have this segue into a body image thing where, I don't know how it is for guys, if you guys feel ashamed when you look at images on TV or magazines. I don't know how deep that shame runs, but it's still so subconscious in me that if I open up a ladies' magazine, I forget that everyone's been lit and photoshopped and make-upped and everything. That I'll see Jane Fonda, who she was my boss in 1995 to 96 when I used to teach drama to inner city Atlanta schools. And I saw her in person in 1995 and 96. I know what she looks like. And just then to see how gorgeous, she is a beautiful woman, but now she's older than then. And to forget that when I see her face in a magazine and go, oh my God, she looks younger than me. You know what I mean? Right. And I'm 40. Right. And just, those images, and we kind of like shame ourselves with it. And the Durian Ryder thing with him wanting to make a video that I'm fat, and I want to go, no. The biggest I ever got to was a size 10. And then if that's fat, how is that making, you know what I mean? If everyone, you just give up. You give up. You're like, well, screw it. Then I can't. If she's fat, then I'm huge and I'm worthless. And I hate that. And if I were to hate something, it would be that.
I live in the part of the country that has taken that extremism we were talking about, that no middle ground, and said, well, we've all embraced, the fact that we can't all be supermodels. And I like living in a place where people that impact my career don't care if I showed up at the grocery store in sweatpants. Where like the image and fashion isn't nearly as tight. Whereas like if I were in the suburbs, especially East Coast where, I'm supposed to look more professional. What I'm getting at is people are okay with that, but it's to a degree where around here we have the fitness middle class Vinny talks about disappearing. That's where I live. Okay, so the obesity rates are enormous, and our people are enormous, and it's like, well, it's all or nothing. Like, well, if I'm not going to be like those skinny bitches on TV, then I'm going to go ahead and be 300 pounds because curves are beautiful. Well, no, hang on. Curves are beautiful, but bowling ball not so much. And I'm not trying to be an insensitive jerk because I'm one of those guys that is huge, but I'm under no illusions about that. So we have the reaction to that, and it's like you said, it's how do we have a conversation between the truth of don't shame people and don't say, well, it's either 0 or size 100.
You're absolutely right. But somebody who feels so ashamed that they're like, screw it, I'm just going to keep eating is not somebody who's going to come to a realization or have their come to Jesus anytime soon.
No, that's true. That's true.
You know what I mean? You're not going to sway them to try to lose weight. anymore by shaming them or saying, you're not attractive, which is your opinion. You know what I mean? And it's
That's
my
just-
opinion too. I have an opinion
That's just
about what I think is
your
beautiful.
opinion, man.
No, but I'm serious. We all have our opinions about what we think is attractive, and that's fine.
Exactly.
And there's what are they called? The chubby chasers out there, which is always a funny storyline and a thing, but it's kind of it's its own thing. There's this whole subculture. Well, there's a subculture for any sexual preference, really.
Was that Rule 529 of the internet? If it exists, there's
exactly.
porn for it.
If it exists,
right.
there's porn for it. But I think that offering solutions, and it's tough. I was saying, I think I said this to Vinny a while ago. I was looking up Christina Hendricks because I wanted to find out, where does she come from? I love the Mad Men. When Mad Men came out, I love when shows come out that are so good and you don't recognize the cast. You say, who are these people? I've never worked with them. I don't recognize any of them. And then it's fun and then you see their IMDb's and see they've been at it for a long time. And it's cool to see, oh, cool, that's their career progression and good for them. And so I was looking up.
You can accept them as that character without the baggage of seeing them.
I
as
love
other
it.
people before. I love that too.
I love it. And frankly, I've been out here for 12 years. I've worked a lot, and yet I'm still not even close to where I want to be, kind of thing. So I like looking up actors who come up, and I'm like, oh, yay. And she's not tiny. You know what I mean? And she's, and I know that they dress her in awesome period stuff where just her boobs are like amazing. Her figure is amazing. I think it's so beautiful. And she's just beautiful. She's one of the world's great beauties. And as I was looking her up, I couldn't believe the stuff that was on her own IMDb page. Like people writing just like how fat she is. I'm like, really?
Oh,
you would kick Christina Hendricks out of bed? Are you insane?
My favorite piece on the early seasons was when they were doing the ad campaign that they nixed. That was the "Are you a Marilyn or are you a Jackie?" Right? Like Jackie Kennedy versus
Yes,
Marilyn
I
Monroe.
remember that.
And they were looking around the office and saying, okay, she's a Jackie, she's a Jack, she's a Marilyn, she's a Marilyn.
That's
and they got to Joan, and they were like, clearly Marilyn. And somebody said, no, Marilyn is a Joan.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
Joan is she's just an icon, really.
Well, heck, Jennifer Lawrence has been dealing with body image, fighting back the crap about people saying she was too heavy. I mean,
it's crazy.
Are you kidding
It's crazy.
me?
And listen, I'm just going to walk you through the experience of auditioning. Now,
sister.
I want you to keep in mind, I'm a comedic actor. And face-wise, I've never trafficked on looks for leading lady. I've always gone out for comedic stuff. So I don't even have the added baggage of I watch my friends who are all ingenues and leading ladies and models are having a heck of a time now that they're 40 and 50 and aging and seeing that their worth is phased out as their looks go. And that sucks. They think that. It's not true, but they're buying into it, okay?
Right.
So sure. I'm not that girl who's trafficked on her looks. I am the character actress, so it's all been okay as far as looks go. However, when you go in to an audition, you sign in a room and there's other actors in there. Now, if you're going on a job interview, how often do people job interview out in the real world? Once every couple of years, maybe? If you're lucky, maybe once every 3-5 years, if you're really moving up in the world. I today did one on-camera audition and 7 voiceover auditions. Now, the voiceover auditions are a lot easier because I get to hide out in the bat cave. But the on-camera auditions, first of all, you got to get all gussied because, you know what I mean? Still, you got to work with what you have, right? You still have to look your best. You have to look prime time, as Andrea Andrews calls it. And you got to get all gussied, generally pay someone to blow out your hair or whatever. Get yourself looking good, especially if it's for a big job. And you walk in and you sign in and you see the other actresses there for your part. And immediately the game starts in your head of, oh, she looks more right for it than I do. Or if it's a good day, you go, oh, no, I look more right for it than they do, which is so funny because you can't quantify if someone's right for it or not. You just can't. But it's still a game that actors play. It's part of the mental game of auditioning. My friend Bonnie Gillespie, who teaches actors how to run their business, calls it actor mind taffy when you walk in there. And so there's been times when I've walked in and it's for something as innocuous as a whatever commercial, a McDonald's commercial, ironically enough, something like that, where I look and I go, well, my butt's smaller than her butt, so I probably get it before she would. And it's these little thoughts that go on in your head, and it's so sick. You know what I mean? And then you have to go, wait, well, that was weird. That's not serving me. And you have to be aware of these things. Now, so these thoughts go on every time you walk into a room, and then you have to actually walk into the room. That's just the waiting room. Then you have to walk into the room, and if it's a nice casting director, or let's say the producers are there, maybe the director's there, maybe the writers are there. If it's TV, the writers will usually be there. And sometimes they're really, really nice, and sometimes they're supportive. And I'm going in for comedy, so all I want to do is make them laugh. That's it. If I made them laugh, that's good. If I haven't, and it's a cold room, and I didn't make them laugh, I've lost. It's done. But sometimes people are jerks. Sometimes people look you up and down. And I'm not a woman, again, who traffics on her looks. So imagine what it's like for the women who, they get objectified even more in the room. Now, I chose this profession. I love acting. I love to make people laugh. I will continue to do it. I'm not going to quit anytime soon. But I'm just saying, it's made me have to examine all of these crazy thoughts that I have, because it doesn't serve me. And so if I'm having these crazy thoughts, granted, it's a little more under a microscope because of my profession, but I imagine everybody's having crazy thoughts when you, especially with women who walk in the room and kind of look at the other women in the room and try to figure out I'm not as fat as she is, so yay me. When really, you need to get healthy.
Right.
Anyway, that's my actor diatribe.
Oh, I really appreciate it, because I think for those of us, who don't live in the industry, which is most of us, and I think part of what I've loved about hearing your podcast and having you have Andrea in, who I recognized. I was sad when Joey got canceled. I was like, that blonde girlfriend's going to be gone. I liked her. And then she was on the show with Matthew Perry, and I was like, oh, that guy,
Mr. Sunshine.
Mr. Sunshine. I was like, but we are seeing inside a world that most of us of sports people or of actors, we only know, Tom Cruise got $20 million his last movie, right? And
you don't hear about the working class actor.
No idea. You see these faces, and so people are famous because you've seen, oh yeah, I recognize him from that character actor part or something. That is a constant grind and hustle, and I don't know how you do it.
It's a lot. I think eventually. If I didn't have voiceover, honestly, I probably would have worn out. I felt like I'd gone through a divorce. I've never gone through a divorce. I've been married 15 years, but it felt like a breakup when the second series that I was on was canceled after the second season. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't deal. It really made me sad. And I luckily had this day job of voiceover to fall back on, but it you know what I mean? It's emotional. It's tough because that's what I want to do. I'm a storyteller and I love acting, and I can't go backwards though. The thing is and this is what I encourage anybody who ever talks to me saying, I want to get into this or whatever creative thing. If you're a creative person, get on the internet and start creating stuff, because once you want to do something like this, you can't step back without it always kind of nagging at you. You need to be creative. So, Anyway, I don't know. I'm all over the place. What the hell?
Well, I think even I assume the show you were talking about was Free Radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which was a great show, by the way. And
thank you.
I think when and I think when you have your baby like that you've put so much work into, that makes it even harder. You put a lot of effort into that, and you knew it was a good show. And there's a lot of that on TV now. I guess there's good shows getting canceled all the time.
Yeah, it does.
I'll bring up one, just a personal favorite was Firefly. Was a great show to me.
Yeah, my friends who love is it Joss Whedon?
Am I really going to be the guy who says nerd alert at this point?
Well, that is a definite nerd alert.
That's like the one I didn't watch.
Well, I actually didn't watch it when it was on. I watched it afterwards, and I was watching the DVDs of it, and I was like, how did the show not make it? And when you go back and look at the history of it, it's just, it got moved around a lot. It was on during the World Series, so it got shuffled and people lost it. And that happens a lot to shows. And it's frustrating even as a fan. I can't imagine what it's like as an actor.
Well, so much of it's out of your control. And who's really good at Tai Chi-ing all that stuff is Andrea Anders. She is the most even-keeled, that's all right, I'll get another show. And she will. She always does, and she doesn't seem to mourn and grieve as long as a lot of actors do, which is really smart and really put together. But I tell you what, if you are mourning and grieving, you know what you want to do? You want to go eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Definitely.
So that happens.
Anna, did you happen to see a few weeks ago in middle October on Saturday Night Live, they had a commercial, energy drink, 24-hour energy for dating actresses?
Oh my God, that was so funny.
I mean,
I made
there's
my
that
husband sit down
stereotype.
and watch it.
Yeah, it's a stereotype of the neurotic actress. But I think what you're telling us is if you're actually trying to get work and you're trying to live in that world for real, it's not.
No, you can't be that way and actually get a job. No, you have to be a fair. Here's the thing: actors who work are generally fairly happy people because you cannot get a job if you're all sprung up. It just doesn't happen. They're happy people who have lives, who have rich, full lives, and are good at what they do.
Would you?
And we always want to pay attention to like the crazy. What's that guy who's always drunk with the crazy hair?
Could you narrow that down?
So many people come to mind.
Jake Busby. No, what's his name? See, this is why I need the turmeric and the curcumin. The crazy guy Gary Busey.
Oh, Gary Busey.
Oh,
Like,
Gary Busey.
everyone wants to say like, oh, actors are crazy. Look at Gary Busey. But trust me, most of the working class actors that you see, they're very normal, lovely people with families and just trying to who want to be creative and want to be storytellers.
I think you're we keep talking about this extreme divisions in society that the modern era is kind of spawning, like you're either this way or you're that way. I think actually social media has allowed that too, in that the psychosis of a Twitter account from a 20-year-old starlet who is should not be having her every thought out there in the world because you're 20.
Oh gosh.
Is not helpful. But on the other hand, maybe this is just a reflection of where I am in life because I'm 41. But people my age that I like, now that I've listened to podcasting, we were talking earlier about the Pete Holmes podcast. I love that podcast because here's a guy trying to make it into business and comedy, and every interview he does with other people is the most like real grounded conversation. I keep sending links to my best friend Matt that I've known since college, and I'm like, dude, this is like the conversations you and I would have at 3:00 in the morning in school, but more pretentious because we were 20. But like now we would catch up on the same topics as dads, and husbands and all the stuff that we're going through in the same point in life. People that are grounded and like, like, look, it's all illusion. It's, put it in perspective and do your job and then go home and be a normal person. It's not all clubbing and bottle service and all that.
No, God, no.
Lifestyle stuff. That's
do have one funny audition story that happened last week. I went out for that show. They're doing a series of Bad Teacher, the movie. They're doing a series of it.
Are they really?
And at least what I read for was really funny. And I go in and it's in a big room. The audition's in a big room where they do their table reads. It's at production. So there's a room off of it that's going to be for casting. There's a room off of it that's the writer's room. So there's people milling about. There's a room off of it that's production, all the production coordinators and the accountants and folks like that who take care of the business stuff. And we're in this giant room. And there, I was the second one to get there. And I signed in. I sat down, played Candy Crush on my phone for a little while, waiting for them to start the session. And people were coming in. So more actresses coming in to read for my part. And then there were some black ladies there to read for their part. And there's some dudes, some middle-aged dudes reading their part. So everyone's kind of like hanging out. There were like 15 of us in there. And 4 of these actresses knew each other, and I couldn't figure out how, but first of all, the etiquette is, especially for a theatrical audition, which is for film or television or theater, you don't talk to other, even if you know them, you say hi, but you don't talk. You don't want to interrupt people before you're going in because you need to focus. But these ladies were just clackety clack. Oh, hi, how are you? So great to see you. And I'm kidding you not. They spoke just like that with that tone of voice. And they were like, oh, well, how's Bill? Oh, he's fantastic. How's Susie? Oh, she's so cute. She's just growing up. And I was just like, what is going on? Like, we're about to go in. I was getting annoyed. We're about to go in the room. And then one of them asks the other one, well, how are you doing? And she goes, oh, well, my saga. And I was like, oh, here we go. I had a miscarriage and now I'm getting a divorce. For the whole room to hear it. And then she bursts into tears. Just bursts into tears and runs out of the room. And without missing a beat, one of the other biatch actresses goes, oh, have you seen a picture of my dog? And she pulled out her phone and showed a picture of her dog. Like, no one said like, oh, is she okay? Oh my gosh, I should go check on her. Or because they knew each other. They were friends. It was the weirdest thing. And I was like, guys, this is why everyone hates actresses. because of you guys. you guys are ruining it for everybody.
Yes.
It sounds
But
like
I didn't say that. I got up and walked out of the room and just waited outside for the session because I wanted
in a room full of real life Effie trinkets from Hunger Games.
I was. They all were like Effie Trinket.
Because Elizabeth Banks' portrayal of that was just, I loved it. I loved it.
I heard she's really cool.
Oh, and there's good example because like Seth Rogen and Friends and those guys just seem like grounded, they get it. Like I watched This Is the End, it wore on me after a while, but the opening, all the in jokes about all these how jerky everybody is in Hollywood, that self-referential stuff with James Franco and all that, it seemed like they get it, like they're not really being giant D-bags, they're just like this is what people probably think a house party James Franco's is like, and Michael Cera being just coked out crazy. I mean,
that's the part I liked because Michael Cera comes on film as such a nerdy, great, guy, and the way they portrayed him in This Is the End is like it's totally opposite of what you think he would be like.
You can tell that you can only make that funny if off screen you're all like regular people.
Oh yeah.
Well,
they've been together. They've been together since the Freaks and Geeks, so they've been friends since they were kids. And
you start to see that now with you can tell which production company is doing something where not just the same actor with the same director, but same 4 or 5 actors that you've seen in other things. That
like what?
It's not
like
just
with Adam Sandler's group. Yeah.
Well, and so my personal opinion is it doesn't always work. I mean, that's just that's kind of like the Expendables of comedy. Let's get all our old friends together and have an excuse.
It is the Expendables of comedy. That's a good call.
That's what they said about Ocean's 12 was like, look, let's all hang out together in Europe and we'll shoot a movie to get an excuse to do it.
That's what I felt about that couples retreat. They were like, let's go to wherever they were.
Yep.
Same thing.
Yeah. So I do want to know this, Anna. Is it common? I have a theory. I mean, this isn't like a huge revelation, but I'm guessing you can be watching a show and you realize somebody that comes in a character later, is a callback. Like, okay, my example, like we were talking about Mad Men. Henry Francis.
I love him.
Something tells me he originally read for Roger. Like, because they're the same ages. I'm like, I bet he read for Roger. And they're like, you're not the right one, but we're going to remember you if another character comes down
that
later.
happens all the time. There are certain showrunners. That's how Chloe from 24 got a job. She read for something else, and they just loved her so much they created that part for her. Marilyn Rice Cub. Did you ever see 24?
I'm not a 24 guy.
She's that quirky. She's so quirky, Marilyn Rice Cub. She just kind of is odd and weird and has that weird kind of voice. I'll have to send you a picture of her. You'll recognize her. She's been in a ton of stuff. But yeah, no, that happens all the time. They remember you and they write a part for you. I mean, even with commercials, I've been casting commercials that they were like, we like you. You weren't right for that, so we wrote an additional line for you to say. But it all depends. But really, 90% of the auditions you go on, there would be like, thank you, before you even get the last word out of your mouth. And it's like, all right, well, had to go for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think there's certain showrunners like Matt Weiner is one, and there's several who consider that, and hopefully Dean Lorey. The crazy ones is so huge right now. They're getting like huge stars on that show.
Yeah, who was just on? That was
Josh Groban, I think, and somebody else. I can't remember.
And usually all playing themselves, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Kelly Clarkson was definitely playing herself because it was the whole thing of like, I don't do jingles. I don't trick me into a jingle.
Right.
And, I know I've been enjoying that show.
Listen to this. This is the universe telling one to move on. So yesterday, DirecTV came to my house to install the new Genie, so you can TiVo 4 shows because I can't get enough TV. I love TV. And at 4 shows at once or whatever. Granted, we only have one TV in our house. I don't think we're very typical Americans in that respect. And he did all the work while I was in here doing sessions. I didn't think about it. And I went back in the house and I turned on the new Genie, and every show I'd ever done since 2003 was on that DVR that I'd never transferred off. And I was like, all of the evidence of my work is gone. And then I thought, all right, time to move on.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. I was really attached to that DVR because it actually had all of my work on it. Every show I've ever been on was on that DVR.
Oh, wow.
And now it's gone. Yeah. So now I'm going to move on. Thank you, universe.
And there's always YouTube.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Some of it's, they've been taking a lot of stuff down off of YouTube.
Oh, because of the copyright.
Like Free Radio has like 3 deleted scenes up there. Another sketch show I did has a few sketches up there. But yeah, because they have to pay the actors.
Well, that's my favorite one. It wasn't me.
Oh,
that
the
little
morning
skit.
after? Yeah, that was a good one.
That I just love that damn skit.
You might want to put that sketch up in your show notes. I'm just kidding. Don't. It's a fart.
What
wasn't me.
I don't know why I haven't seen the stuff you've done that's been on screen. But what about you did an episode of It's Always Sunny?
I did, and that was one of those things where it was shot. We shot an entire afternoon and it was cut down to like 2 lines. I'm used to being. Until you're the star, you just prepare yourself to be cut out of stuff.
I went to college,
but it was a good scene. It was a really funny scene. Yeah. Who?
Well, I went to college with a guy who was in theater with me in college. I just did amateur stuff in college. He went on to an acting career, and he actually filmed. He filmed for, I don't know how you say it. He was supposed to be in The Fan with Wesley Snipes played a ball player and Robert De Niro played an obsessed fan.
Right.
And he got all creepy. Well, they shot his part where he was a sportscaster. They cut the entire character. It wasn't just they whittled him down. His entire character was cut. Now, so I mean, he got paid. He wasn't a big name or anything. So he got paid whatever the rate was. For the work. But his name, he didn't. That wasn't his film breakthrough. And after that, I never heard what anything else he might have done.
Well,
but that was
to bring it back to Sarah Silverman's thing. It's the same thing. You think you're getting a bunch of big breaks, and it's a giant marathon that is your entire career. And some people get really big breaks, and it really does blow up for them. But most of us get what we think are going to be, this is it. I have a series. This is what everybody wants, is a series. And then it gets canceled and you've got to move on to the next one, Real quick, one more story because I know this is going on for forever. One time, my friend Gary Greenberg, this is before my husband worked at Kimmel. Gary is the head writer over at Kimmel. And Gary called me and he said, can you come do this sketch? It's with Juliana Margulies and with Jimmy. And it's a funny sketch. It's about, he's going to be talking to Juliana Margulies and he's going to say, I went to your Super Bowl party last year. And she's going to say, yeah. And then they're going to cut to this sketch. And it's Jimmy walking into the Super Bowl party with his, jersey on and his beers in his arm. And we're all having like an Eat, Pray, Love book club, and we're talking about the book, and that's the Super Bowl party. And then he's like, can I at least turn the TV on? And we say no, because we're watching the Food Channel on mute. You're not allowed to watch football. And so it was this funny little scene, and it said on there Anna, like my part was Anna, because it's me going in to do the part. And I get there at my appointed time, and I'm sitting there hanging out, and the director comes downstairs first before Gary does, because he has to get the whole scene blocked out for lighting and everything before Juliana and Jimmy show up, because they need to be ready to go and shoot it really quick. And there's a blonde lady there and me and then Juliana Margulies. And the blonde lady was supposed to be an extra. She wasn't supposed to have any lines. And they said, the director looks at me and he kind of looks and kind of turns his head funny. And he looks at the blonde lady, goes, what's your name? She's like, Beverly. He goes, Beverly, I want you to say her lines. And I was like,
nice.
Wait, what? No, those are my lines. I'm Anna. And he was like, "No, you and Juliana look too similar. She should be talking to the Beverly." And I was like, "'Cause she's blonde." And I was like, and I remember just sitting there going, "I can't do anything about this." And there's nothing I can do. I still get paid the same amount of money, but I don't get to be in the scene. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just one of those things. It was a good lesson in going, it's sometimes it's not your part even when it says your name.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I like that.
That's deep.
Anyway.
Sometimes it's not your part even when it says your name.
Sometimes it's not. Sometimes Beverly swoops in like a biatch. No, I'm just kidding.
You forgot to say TM after that, so I'm taking it.
Yes.
Okay,
Trademark. I guess
Speaking of trademarks, I'm supposed to read your...
Everybody has a Beverly. There you go.
Everybody's
got a Beverly. And well, just to kind of bring it full circle, maybe we should mention triathlon once, John. I mean, some of the best advice I've gotten for people who are large and starting out and really self-conscious. And one of the shows we did tips on picking an unintimidating first race. I lost my train of thought here. If you're worried that like people are going to see you in spandex and you're really self-conscious about that, if you're heavier, and the thing is, in triathlon gear, unless you're a size 0, everybody looks fat in triathlon.
Well,
gear.
Exactly, and I say that a few times that you don't think you look bad when you're out there. You think you look great, and you think you finally lost some weight and you're looking really good, and then the race pictures come out.
This
and the
is
race
the story
picture,
of my life.
This smacks you right in the face. It's, oh my God.
The real truth of it is, we'll talk about, it's not just actors who sometimes need to get over themselves on who's looking. It's endurance athletes.
Yeah.
And the idea like nobody's looking at you. They're either involved in their own race or they're somebody dragged along that's just waiting for the one person they recognize to be like, okay, fine, we clap for you when you went by. The idea that anybody cares what you look like at an endurance race is, a little bit of don't worry about it, or if it works better for you, get over yourself. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
So, there's Beverly's out there that might steal your thunder, but in our world, nobody's going to hold it against you because they won't remember you were there.
Right.
Know? Yeah,
it's fine.
On the flip side, people will make relationships and have. I mean, there's people I met at a race that I saw months later that like we remembered each other like old friends. And I mean, heck, I'm building this roster that when I go up to Ironman Mount Tremblant next year, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have these people over to the condo and these people, and it's gonna be so awesome just because we have that mutual thing and we met one time at a race randomly, or through an internet board or something like that.
Wait, now which Ironman? Because I was confused because you said a few different ones. Which Ironman are you going to do?
Well, I'm going first between me and John. I'm going to be next August up at Quebec at Ironman Mont Tremblant. Ironman Mont Tremblant.
In August 2014.
August 2014. And then John?
In September, I'm at the new venue. It's Ironman Chattanooga.
Okay.
And so... Yeah, and that's a brand new race. It just first year that it's been out there. So,
awesome.
We all got in.
You guys are my heroes.
Yeah.
I'll do a 5K the same weekend that you guys do your Ironman. I'll stick with my trusty 5K and thank you guys.
You have to do like 28 of them.
Okay.
To equal it. Okay, 28 5Ks.
28. I have 28 5Ks to do. Yes. I can do that as long as they don't have to be actual 5Ks. I'll do neighborhood 5Ks.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Well, I could go on. I know, Anna, you're used to recording 3 hours at a shot with Vin, but we appreciate your time tonight. I don't know if we've run out of topics or not. I could keep going, but I think we hit the topic of the night being the body image stuff. We could certainly unpack that. We could do a whole podcast about that every week, really. Yeah. But I think we hit some things that maybe I hadn't thought of from a male point of view, and maybe you hadn't thought of how a guy thinks about it. I don't know, but I think what some of the stuff you said, Anna, that I think wraps it all up is, if people would just cut each other slack and not assume, just put yourself in somebody else's shoes, act with kindness, and get over your own stuff. We'd all be a lot better off.
Oh, and let me say this. I don't know when this particular episode is coming out, but today is Thursday, and tomorrow, the Friday episode of The Angriest Trainer, it has comedian Bobby Kelly, who he says it right at the top of the episode. He said, I've been like 6 different fats, is what he calls it. He's lost weight and gained weight so many times, and he's really open. And that's why I love comedians, because they'll just lay it out there. They'll talk about depression and food addiction and alcohol addiction. He just lays it all out there, his feelings about it, and how NSNG is helping him to just reprogram his brain. So I think you guys will really dig that episode.
Oh, definitely. Good. Definitely. Yeah, they're the truth tellers. I mean, and that's why you were talking about being a comic actress more than dramatic or leading lady. I've always held that I have way more, I won't say respect, but I'm more impressed by people who are good at comedy, because it's harder than drama. I mean, there's great dramatic actors. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Adrian Brody or, whoever, or Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, oh my God, Daniel Day-Lewis is incredible.
There are some airheads that are famous dramatic actors and actresses that are like, wow, they just really do just stare and look pretty. There are people like that. In comedy, you can't get away with that. You got to be smart. You got to be quick. And I respect quick-witted and smart more than most anything else. So
awesome.
comedy, man, is where it's at for the real talent. And
I agree.
100%.
I agree.
That's why I have such a man crush on John Hamm, because he really made his name as this dramatic actor. But when he was on Saturday Night Live and then doing all these other comic things,
great.
He's so perfect at it.
Did you know that he auditioned for Mad Men 8 times?
Get out of
Really?
town.
They had him back 8 times. Now,
and it seems like a
any other
no-brainer
actor
when you
would
watch
have
it.
fallen apart. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. He is Don Draper, and any other actor would have fallen apart. I mean, you keep thinking, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. That's like a test of his coolness to be able to go through that process. Well, anyway.
I think they were just like, whoever shows up and keeps showing up.
Whoever we haven't broken in this process gets the job.
Yeah, cool. Well, Anna, I really love hearing these stories.
I love being here. Thank you.
The real Hollywood and
the working man's Hollywood.
Theater stories.
Auditioning confidential.
For real.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
There you go.
Yeah, we might be onto something, John.
I'm telling you.
You stole my trademark. I'm stealing your trademark.
Okay.
And then I'll put out Clergy Confidential.
There you go.
That's going to be something.
Except pretty much all the good stories I have are in confidence, and that's why we don't write books.
Just change your names.
Well, not. I've been in one place
Change
so
it to
long.
Schmandrew Schmeaver.
Yeah, well.
Schmandrew Schmeaver.
Yeah. Schmandrew Schmeaver.
You can call me John Smith. I seem to go by that a lot.
He's still mad about that.
I have to bring it up at least once.
You butcher everyone's name and confuse people. I don't know why you guys are still fans.
Live in the now, John. Live in the now.
He's fine.
Let it go.
He's over it. He just had to bring it up. I knew it.
I'm not bitter.
No, you're sweet and salty.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying anything.
I'm umami.
He's a salty old sailor.
I'm an old sailor, that's for sure.
Well, yeah. All right, can I read the thing?
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we have been tagging our podcast. We've had our guests read it. We've had John read it himself, but we now have, for the first time, a professional voiceover actor to present to you the Ironman Year One tagline. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close tonight with Anna Vocino.
It's Anna Vocino here to remind you: swim calm, bike strong, run steady.
And that's the show for this week. Join us on the Facebook groups to find more insight and answers from the guys and friends. And thanks for listening to the Fat Slow Triathlete Show. Swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.
Zendurance Now Coaching, the relentless pursuit of excellence. Are you looking to increase your fitness level, get stronger, or reach a new goal? There are many people who share that same desire, but often life or injuries get in the way, and their progress slows or even stops. Professional coaching brings a unique element to staying focused, developing the right fitness and nutrition plan, and having a certified coach to help you stay on target and reach your goals. Zendurance Now helps you reach your goals through customized training plans, one-on-one consultation, and constant motivation. Whether you're a local or remote, we've got this. Visit www.zendurancenow.com and learn how we can help you.
G-Fit is a group-based, high-intensity circuit training led by NASM certified trainers in a pressure-free, friendly, and comfortable environment located in Tampa, Florida. Classes Monday and Wednesday, 5:45 to 6:30 p.m., and Saturday at 10 a.m. Personal training available upon request. Fees are found at www.tpamartialarts.com.